understand there is a level of being that AI can't touch, a level of vulnerability and authenticity and realness at the level of the heart that AI will never touch. And if a man doesn't understand that, he's going to be spinning his wheels in the world of tactics and problem solving, wondering why she's not responding, which was what we always coach. Why isn't this working? Well, it's not working because you're not being the kind of man who gets the shit you want. You're not being that. Well, I've asked ChatGPT how to be that way. You can't ask AI a being question, only doing question.
Right. Welcome to the Masterful Man Podcast. I'm your host, Sven Masterson, coach, mentor, author, and fellow traveler on the path to mastery. Every man reaches the point where he knows he can't keep living the way he has been. The question is, what comes next? Here, you'll hear from men who've made the shift, men who've gone from stuck to unstuck, unshakable, and unstoppable. If you're ready to start moving forward, you're in the right place. In this episode, Steve Horsmon and I are digging into something we're seeing more and more. Men turning to AI to try to fix their relationships, decode their wife's emotions, or even coach themselves into being better men. It might seem clever, it might feel safer, but it's keeping a lot of men stuck in performance, manipulation, and disconnection. We're talking about what it really takes to be a man who can love, lead, and connect without hiding behind scripts or shortcuts. If you've ever tried to think your way into intimacy, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Hey, Steve. Thank you for joining me once again on the Masterful Man Podcast. It's been a few weeks. Lots of good feedback on our conversation, our click and clack conversation about emotional safety. That was pretty popular. I invited you here today to talk about our collective book, Narcissist or Not. And hoping we could just talk through that book a little bit and what it's about, some of our challenges as authors, and see where it goes. So like normal, this is unscripted. I don't think I have ever had a scripted conversation with you. Nothing ever polished and whatnot. So we made it almost a year ago, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback about this book, but I also have some struggles with it. So before I talk about that, maybe invite you to share a little bit about your experience so far.
Yeah, when we had the idea to help guys with the idea of being accused of being a narcissist and coming up with titles for the book, we knew the one thing we wanted to do was to provide a sense of peace and understanding to a guy who's being called one of the most vicious words in the world, which is that you're an incurable sociopath. And even though we call the book Not a Narcissist, right? How to know if you're a narcissist or not. Other guys who've read the book said, man, you should have called this How to Keep Your Wife from Hating You, or How to Make Your Wife Fall Back in Love with You Again. Yeah. That's really what you guys are talking about. And I just love the spin on that this book dives deep into male psychology and how to become more compassionate, but also more confident in yourself.
Yeah. I think one person said we should change the title to Why Your Wife Doesn't Like You. Yeah. That's probably my favorite one so far, and probably the most appropriate. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of men say how much they can see themselves in that book. Men typically say how much they appreciate our little, handwritten sections where we sort of comment on our personal experience. It's been pretty meaningful, but one of the challenges I've had from publishing a book about narcissism is that the topic is so pervasive. It's like everywhere on social media, on the internet. Even if you do a search on Amazon for narcissism or narcissist, there's so much material out there. And so that's been difficult.
Yeah.
The other thing that's been difficult is that, most men, the last thing they want to do is like closely associate with a book that has a title that might not paint them in a flattering light. It's almost like buying a book about premature ejaculation or erectile dysfunction. I mean, you're not going to generally keep that on your nightstand. So a lot of men I talk to share Kindle accounts. So they're just like super cautious about the books that they read. And yet, if you don't put that in there, how do they find it? That's been a little bit of a challenge to think about.
Hopefully this podcast will help those guys. They can listen to this and not have to put it on their Kindle and start to
Yeah.
learn what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, for the listener, I would just kind of throw out there what led to this, if they're not familiar with this book, Narcissist or Not, or you and I both coach men that I would say, if we just boiled it all down, are struggling with a lack of confidence, insecurity, fear, self-loathing, a number of things. And we started to notice that kind of this common average man who struggled with these things we would say always show up in midlife or by midlife. Actually, well before midlife, you just don't realize them until midlife, that these behavior patterns that tend to show up in relationships, thanks to social media and celebrity therapists and things like that, and the power of social media algorithms that keep showing you more of what you watch, they were leading to men and men's struggles becoming pathologized and labeled into these like clinical labels. And then what I saw happening in my work is men were reaching out because they were getting kicked out of their homes. They were getting very rapid, sudden separations and divorces because their partners were, encountering behaviors, either Googling them or talking to friends or going to social media, concluding that their partner matched a clinical definition of narcissism. And then seeing those same experts say, there's no hope, get out, protect yourself. And so I've encountered a lot of men who've just they've lost the things most precious to them, their relationship, sometimes marriages of decades. They've lost access to their children in some cases. And some of those, there's been parental alienation. They've lost ultimately half of their wealth, 401k, this kind of stuff. It's a really kind of considerable problem. And I believe that 95% of the time it's misguided. And so I propose to you, hey, can we write this book and do this course? Because if we could get out in front of this, maybe we could help men who are really at risk of losing everything important to them simply by just the world we live in today. Mm-hmm. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, you mentioned insecurity. We're going to be talking a lot about insecurity. And one of the biggest problems that are going on in relationships today is that men and women are seeing it as a competition for righteousness. Men have called women crazy for eons. This is almost like a women's version of calling men crazy. And so we're going to get even with you now. And when a woman gets even with a man, it's not even. She triples down on it. And this whole narcissism accusation is like the nuclear bomb of retaliation for calling women crazy for the last 100 years. And
right.
So we know what it feels like. It's like, I don't want to be called crazy, but this is worse than crazy. This is pathological. And the word insecurity is what we're going to be talking about, that most narcissistic behaviors are not pathological. They come from an internal uneasiness or an insecurity. And we grin at this because we both know it so well. And that's what this book is about, is knowing so well the triggers that cause you to do things that somebody might want to call narcissistic. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I would add to that, one of the things people have gotten out of that book is that because we both share our personal experience with the behaviors, we also share how we grew through them and away from them, and that it's not a fixed condition, right? I could tolerate people being called narcissist if it was offered alongside of like, here's a path to growing out of this label and pathology, but it's not. It's presented as a fixed condition that there's no hope. And that's the really destructive power. And like, that's my why for putting the book together, because I saw myself in all these accusations. I was like, wow, I would have been labeled a narcissist today had I done the things, 800-900 years ago that I was doing. I don't do them today. And that's not because I'm really trying hard not, to be a good boy. It's because that insecurity led me to the place of a complete, tearing apart of the way I was and a rebuilding into who I've always been, interestingly. And that was really a powerful experience. And I know that men have that all the time. And in your work and mine, that's what we help guys with. It's not a permanent condition. So I wonder, I kind of know the answer, but I'm going to ask it for the sake of being on video. One of the things I just want to confess is like, it's frustrating to write a book and not know how to get it out in front of the right audience. It's frustrating to be a coach these days because there's millions of coaches. And I oftentimes find myself wondering, like, how am I going to stand out, in the world of people with things to share? Like if I buy ads, if I do anything to try to promote this book, at the end of the day, it's just going to be doom scrolled by millions of people who are just going to keep on going. So one of the things that's happening to me a lot in my world is that it's pretty frequent that somebody either directly or indirectly says, oh, you got to check out this latest technology. And it's usually some form of AI. It's game changing. This will totally turn around things for you. It'll make all of these things so much easier. So I'm not a big fan of that. And I'll talk about why maybe in a little bit. But sometimes I like to entertain it, see what's out there. So I used a tool recently and I gave it our manuscript and it recorded what sounds a little bit like a podcast between two people talking about our book. And I want to actually review it with you a little bit, not all of it, because it's like 47 minutes long. But I thought it'd be kind of an interesting thing to review together and talk about our internal and even external experience of that. But are you getting this kind of feedback from people? Are people telling you basically how to double this and triple that and add X, Y, Z?
Oh, everybody's an AI coach now, right? Before they used to be personality profile coach and then sex coaches, and now everybody's an AI coach trying to help you triple your productivity. And you and I both know that some of our clients are trying to use AI to change their relationship by hacking communication systems. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Well, say more about that. I think that would be fun to talk about before we get into to listening to this.
About hacking communication systems?
Yeah, like what are you saying? And well, start there. Tell me what you're seeing among people.
Well, a lot of guys are, first of all, they don't know what their wife is saying. So they'll take a text message, a real long text message from their wife and send it through AI and say, tell me what the big trigger points here. What's her emotional state? How should I be thinking about this? Then they'll say, how should I respond to this? How can I sound more compassionate, more empathetic? Help me with the wording of this. When we're coaching, sometimes a guy will say, oh, what you said just there was perfect. Can you send that to me? As if they're going to copy and paste what we tell them. And there's a dangerous pill here where you think you can lose weight with the pill, you think you get smarter with the pill, and now some guys think they can fix their relationship with an AI, buddy, somebody who's helping them talk better. The AI can't help us be better men. And so one thing we like to talk about is while AI is a great tool and great researcher and analysis, it's no substitute for true authenticity, true compassion, true empathy. When you can speak the way we're speaking now without a script and explaining our feelings about something as well as we can with pauses and ums and ahs, it is more believable, more trustable, which ultimately leads to the connection all men want with women, a believable, trustable, intimate connection that is not born out of the perfect sentence that somebody gave you.
Yeah, I love this whole conversation because it's so appropriate, interestingly, for the ideas we wrote about in the book and why men are oftentimes called narcissists. What you just said there reminded me when I was a kid, I've actually had this pattern for a lot of my life, and it only got better in my early mid 40s. I remember I sucked at school, first of all. The thing I liked about school was recess, lunch, and girls and gym class. And so every year I would get super excited when my parents would go out and buy new school supplies. It was like a fresh Trapper Keeper. Do you remember Trapper Keepers?
Oh.
Well, that you might be a little old for that. Not to jab you there, but Trapper Keepers were like these really cool 3-ring binders in the 80s that kind of took off.
Oh, okay.
And I loved getting like a new box of crowns and fresh notebook paper. And it was because I always had this inspiration at the beginning of the year that the new tool would finally make me a good student. But it didn't. I mean, it was a snazzy tool. It smelled good. It looked cool. It was nice and clean. But what I didn't know then, and it took me until my low to mid 40s to figure out, was the tool never shortcuts your need to learn just to how to put your nose to the grindstone and do the work. And, as we guys that are into tools, I have a whole workshop full of tools, and I love tools, but those tools don't really impart to me the understanding of using them well. In fact, years ago, I made a video about how a simple carpenter square, how I'd had a carpenter square for 20 years and I didn't know there was a little scribe piece in that square. So my point is, we have this pattern of men of always looking for shortcuts to do the work. And I think this is just a part of our ego that says, you know what, I don't really want to take the next 2 or 3 years to really learn who I am, to face my darkness, to understand why I'm reactive. And so the appeal of this thing now, this AI thing, to be kind of like your little oracle in a pocket that you can, paste your wife's text messages into and emails or whatnot, I think is intoxicating, because it offers this ability to do, to not have to do the work of growing.
Yeah. When we think about having a little pocket friend, an AI friend, and later they're going to be AI girlfriends, and then later very good AI sex robots. And they're always going to tell you the very best things you want to hear. Hi,
Yeah.
Sven. You're the most handsome man I've ever seen. You have a beautiful complexion, and I love your physique. And then they're going to compliment you and tell you everything you want to hear without any critical thinking attached to it, no
Yeah.
emotional judgment. And that's really intoxicating to think that I'm only going to hear good stuff. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous way to live.
This is my chief worry. And I want to talk about that more after we listen to this, because I'll be the first to admit, when I hear two people I don't know talking about our book in this way that sounds super nice, I had an initial reaction like, wow, this is really exciting. I didn't just jump to a conclusion I want to use it. And I ultimately concluded I don't, for this reason. But boy, that was really hard.
Flattering.
It's flattering, yeah. And it offered, for me, from the author's perspective, it offers all of this shortcut to like the complexities of saying, hey, would you read my book? And having maybe somebody say no, or who the F are you, or just declining. And so the idea that I could get people who don't have any critique, who don't ask any critical questions, but who also don't have any humanity to contend with. Like this is the issue for me, is it, and it's a big concern I have with AI and relationships and whatnot, is it removes all of the friction of relating to other people. And here's the rub for me when it comes to that with men, is that at the end of the day, if I distill down what we really help with men with, like what men really want when they contact me, and I'm pretty sure you too, it's not sex. It's not, I mean, not that they don't want that, but if I distill down everything they say they want, what they really want is intimacy. And I would define intimacy, I like to just break it as into me see. Men want to be deeply seen, appreciated for who they are, accepted as they are, and to see someone else in that way. I think that's what we're all looking for. And that's the real beauty of a human relationship, is being seen as you are, in your imperfection, in your poor complexion, in your 20 extra pounds that you don't want, in your, maybe your penchant to be reactive and say dumb shit when your wife or girlfriend says something, or she says it to you. It's like our ability to experience one another in that, the rawness of our humanity, and still say, I choose to be with you. I choose you. Like that is what men are really after. But I find this thing that despite men wanting intimacy, this is their problem, and why they are labeled narcissists, is they want to do that without actually being seen. So that if I distill down what men are kind of trying to do in relationships, it's they want to see her deeply. They want her to show herself to them, like completely opened. And in fact, men love that. They love the idea of a woman open, right? They want to smell all the fragrance, see all the nooks and crannies. They want to imbibe deeply without ever being known, without actually being seen, because it scares the shit out of them to face her and have her turn her nose up, scrunch her face, or say, why'd you do that? That was dumb, right? Like that stuff, that stuff is scary to a lot of men, right?
Yeah, it's why many of us think if we could only have sex with her, then we would be seen. That's how I connect emotionally, by having sex. That's the old trope that I cannot connect intimately unless I can have sex. That's my gateway to being seen. And there's a real problem there because you're more than your sexuality.
Well, it's also a problem because women generally are not going to be open sexually until they feel connection. So you have guys that say, I don't feel connection until we have sex. And a woman that says, well, I don't want to sleep with you until I feel connection. So I find it's just a little bit of a side note, but culture seems to validate this about men as though that's healthy. But I find that that's just immature men that think that way. And that after a man does his work and he understands himself more intimately, then he can have intimacy on a whole other level. And then it's fairly easy to be sexually intimate because you're just acting one other way intimately that you already allow
it's a
yourself to
natural
be seen.
byproduct of authentic connection. Sexuality is always a natural byproduct of authentic connection,
Yeah.
authentic arousal, authentic
Yeah.
lovingness, that kind of stuff.
Before we get this, reviewing this AI thing, I know, quite a few people in the Silicon Valley space. And one of the things they have said is that what Silicon Valley elites are working on at the moment is AI friends. That is the next big thing. All of the social media companies are investing in essentially an AI cure for loneliness. And, I don't like to be all or nothing, black and white. I don't want to say that this is evil, but I have some grave concerns about the intoxicating attraction of the idea that this something will relate to you in this way and generally require that you don't really do any work to get to know yourself and to work through your shit in order to have a relationship. It'll just blow psychophantic smoke up your rear end all day.
Psychopathic smoke.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's the right thing to say, but yeah. So I think this is a big deal, and I worry that it's going to lead even more marriages and long-term relationships to flounder and break, because I think what we need to do is go the other way. We need to really know ourselves, including allowing ourselves to be seen as we are, right? Without perfection. And so if men are doing this, they're seeking understanding, but they're doing it in this highly insulated way. Like, are you telling your wife you're doing that? Or are you becoming, secret and trying to do all this stuff without her actually seeing?
Yeah.
Another thing is even men with coaching. Like, men oftentimes want to sign up for something like coaching or a community, but keep it completely hush hush to her. And I tell them the same thing. I'm like, you realize you want intimacy with a woman, but you're trying to keep secrets and have intimacy, and that doesn't work. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to model the thing that is so hard to do. Using tools like AI can be a very, very shallow approach because the opposite of shallow is deep. When we say deep, that's an emotional world of risk, vulnerability, compassionate care. And when a woman is saying something and you don't understand it, you get an email and it's just full of emotions and words and things that you don't understand. The most naturally compassionate, authentic, deep thing you can say is, sweetheart, I love you so much. And sometimes I feel your big emotions and I can tell you're hurting. And I want to understand you so badly because I love you and I don't want to hurt you. Can you tell me more about what you're feeling and tell me what it's like to have that? Tell me how I helped cause that. I really want to understand. Now, those are words that you could type into Chat GPT and talk to them that way, because saying what I just said, it's way too risky to say to a live woman. But we teach guys how to laugh at the idea that you think that that's risky. We think it's risky that you're not saying it, that you're not becoming a man who is fearless and unapologetic and open hearted to say the shit you need to say without taking the shallow route, which I'm going to come over here and ask for some private advice. It's just no way to grow. You can't grow if you stay in the shallow end of vulnerability.
The
Make a
irony
bumper
with that,
sticker out of that.
well, we will put it on there. I'll ask ChatGPT what bumper stickers to make after this conversation. The irony with that too is, and I discovered this in my own life, and I talked to a lot of men about this. Most men don't understand that big, scary email, all those big emotions, if they weren't scared of them, which is really all just about how we learn to interpret these things, you can just as easily understand them as foreplay or as another form of intimacy. And when you're comfortable with those big emotions and that you realize it's not actually scary, it's like that wizard behind the curtain idea. And they realize behind this big, scary email and these loud, blaming things is just a human being that doesn't feel very good and would love to feel deeply loved and cherished and seen and held by you. Can you do that? Because if you can, you're never going to be a person that struggles with intimacy, because that's what intimacy is. It's the ability to see that kind of stuff and not freak out. And when you have that shift, it totally changes the intimate landscape. And I don't just mean sex. I just mean the ability to enjoy another human, because you're not walking around feeling like you've got to be bubble wrapped all the time to avoid all these things, or feeling like she has to be, kind of kept at a cool, almost frozen temperature where she's just warm enough to be nice, but not too cold. That's how most men, I think, learn to try to manage a woman, instead of appreciating that those big emotions are an opportunity for intimacy. And so every time you run from them, you're running from the intimacy.
If you're running away from depth, you're running away from meaning. And we all want to mean something, we want to matter. But if you run away from depth and the risk of vulnerability, you're running away from meaning. And this is the start of a life to where you just spend everything in a very safe, shallow end of the pool. And we're helping you to understand that that's no life you want to live. There's no fun there.
Can you share a little bit for our listener why, or maybe how that is, like how a woman perceives a man who's living like that?
She'll use psychological terms, pop culture, pop psych terms, like you're emotionally unavailable. And I think your EQ is low. You're not emotionally intelligent. You don't seem to have the words or vocabulary to connect with me. And guys will go buy books on emotional intelligence and availability and try to learn what it's all about. When what you and I do is break down the very, very simple reality that when we have unsure, uncertain, or insecure feelings inside us, we will always show up at the lowest risk, which is being superficial, being protective, being defensive, being matter of fact, trying to keep things businesslike. The risk there is that the fun is when we're vulnerable. The listener of this podcast right now may see that you and I are saying things most men don't say. We're revealing things that we feel that most men wouldn't talk about. We're trying to demonstrate to the listener what it's like to have fun and grin and connect and just vibrate in this place of authenticity that is more pleasurable than anything. And if you can have that even without having sex, you'll find out that there's all kinds of ways to have pleasure in your life and body without just seeking an orgasm, which are nice too. We're a big fan of orgasms. There's so many emotional and intellectual orgasms you can have if you stop playing around, if you stop hiding.
You're using the word
Boy,
pleasure.
I took that down a rat hole, didn't I?
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. This is why I have to mark these podcasts as explicit, because guys like you talked about rabbit holes and orgasms. So you're using the word pleasure, and I think that's a meaningful word. I like to think of it as just ease. I feel like I was so wound up for most of my life because all of that stuff was so taxing cognitively. I spent so much time thinking about what other people think about, and I didn't realize how much that robbed me of my day-to-day life, to think about what my wife was thinking about, what my employer was thinking about, what my friends were thinking about. And I was always having these conversations in my head that were like strategically trying to imagine what people might say and how I might respond. And it was just stressful AF. And just getting that back and the ease that comes with, just growth, it brought a certain amount of ease to my day-to-day life, even outside of relationships, that I would say has been worth the price. To me, that's the real gold. And it's just a cherry on top, what that's done in my relationships, because I feel like I'm actually there. I can enjoy it. It's pleasurable. Even in hard things, interestingly, I've had a lot of hard things in the last couple of years, and I wouldn't call them pleasurable, but I experienced them in a way that I wouldn't have in the past that was really meaningful because I felt like I was really present and alive in the middle of the hard thing. Right. And I would credit that to learning how to do that with Zelda in, hard conversations and whatnot. So great breakdown. You ready to listen to some of this, psychopathic smoke?
A few minutes of this AI take on our book.
To a topic that's, it's become a really pervasive and often devastating buzzword in relationships. The narcissist label. You hear it everywhere, don't you? I mean, in arguments, all over social media, even just casually when someone feels wronged, it's such a heavy accusation, and it feels like it's being thrown around more than ever.
It truly is, yeah. And what Sven Masterson and Steve Horsmon really highlight in their compelling book, Narcissist or Not, is just how urgent and deeply human this problem is.
Right.
Okay. Compelling. You see, there's a lot of nice things here. We're only 30 seconds in, and I feel like, all right, yeah, my ego likes this. It likes to hear two people talking about us and using words like compelling and urgent. And so when I first heard this, to be blunt, I felt really seen. And then I had the weird sensation of wait a minute, this is a robot. This is like a machine that's doing this. Anything come up for you yet before you?
Well, yeah, just the tone. It sounds like and I don't know if we're doing this on this podcast. They sound like they have a marketing thing where they're pulling words out of a hat, compelling things to make the listener engage, and almost like they're really gearing me up to hear something great. And it just doesn't sound authentic. It almost sounds like they're performing a little bit, the way they play off of each other. And and I wonder if the listener thinks you and I are doing that too right now.
No, in fact, what's weird is I literally had never used this tool before. I selected the PDF of our ebook, and our ebook doesn't describe itself like this.
No.
And I hit a button to do an audio summary. I'm not going to mention the tool because I don't know if that would get me in some sort of trouble, but that's it. I didn't tell it to do anything. And it pushed this out, and that was why it was so eye-popping. I was like, holy shit, what is this about? So, yeah, this is the prospect. This is what we're talking about. There's a little bit danger in that because it immediately starts with all of these really nice-sounding things and the marketing speak. But just to be blunt, I mean, this could be a real shit book. It really could. I mean, what if we wrote a book about something really just a trashy perspective about men or women or humanity? Would it do this? And I think that's a question to ask, because if I was asking this for relationship advice and maybe I just said something really horrible to my wife, if I didn't ask it to tell me critical things, is it going to tell me hey, great job, that was really awesome? Yeah, let's play it a little bit more.
They're seeing marriages, families just ending at an alarming rate. And it's not random. They argue it's profoundly exacerbated by, recent trends, social media algorithms, just feeding confirmation bias.
Oh, absolutely. That echo chamber effect.
Exactly. It makes it scarily easy for someone to find stuff that validates their absolute worst fears, their deepest insecurities about their partner. And sometimes it's even complicated by relationship advice from therapists or counselors who, maybe haven't had the most successful or fulfilling relationships themselves.
That's a tough point, but an important one they raise.
It is. And this whole mix, it just leads to immense fear, suspicion, and often this really suffocating hopelessness for people, for couples, where a label suddenly feels like a life sentence.
Yeah.
This isn't just about words being misused. It's literally about lives getting torn apart, kids losing access to a parent, trust, just crumbling.
That sense of hopelessness is just, yeah, it's devastating. And it really underscores why this deep dive feels so critical. Not just to understand the problem, but maybe to challenge some of those narratives that might be feeding into it.
Right.
So our mission today is really to cut through all that noise, to try and understand why these really powerful, sometimes relationship-ending labels pop up in the first place. We want to explore those common behaviors that often get mistaken for clinical narcissism, and maybe most importantly, discover a practical, hopeful path towards actual growth and reconnection for everyone.
Yeah. And they go on like this, just for what it's worth. I don't know if you listen to it all, but like for 47 minutes having a conversation about our book. My background being in tech, I've started to get pretty good at tuning into like, yeah, this sounds like AI, but I don't know that a lot of people would. They do some weird things, like the lady keeps identifying with men by saying like, how it is for us. She says some stuff like that, which is kind of a giveaway. Yeah. But if you're not paying attention, I do wonder what conclusions you could come to.
The one thing that I'd like guys to take away from it is that the format, the formula that whoever wrote the program to take that and distill our information, they are trying to organize it. They're following a template. And then the last thing she said, so our mission today is to get clear about this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And lastly, we're going to generate some hope and inspiration so the good part of what they did was that they were organized in how they were trying to present it. Right? They had a freaking point, is what I always say. Yeah. It's not necessarily what they're saying in this AI generated thing. It's how they're organizing the presentation of the material. And I appreciate that because I think simplicity has power. I think a lot of AI tends to overcomplicate because it has way too many words available to it, and it'll just put more than it needs into things. And I'm a big fan of keep it short and sweet, stupid. And so but a lot of guys will think more words is better because the AI will teach them a vocabulary in a format that's just too long form. And you and I have talked about this before. I'm the short and sweet guy anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. Well, let me start with the positives. I don't know exactly why this tool was made. And again, I don't want to name the tool, but I could see it being helpful if you're a person that has a lot of information to digest and you don't have time necessarily to read a ton of books. Like the ability to give a tool a PDF and have it generate a 47-minute conversation instead of reading a book that might take you 8 or 10 hours. I could see that.
I have an app for that on my phone. I have an app that does cliff notes.
Oh, yeah? Books. Yeah. So I recognized something in myself after I heard that. Like I had to really sit with it for several hours and process like, this feels good, but then it feels bad that it feels good. And like, I had to play with that a little bit. And just the ego part of this and wondering like, yeah, I could see this as being hugely captivating as a coach, captivating as an author. Man, this offers me the ability to go out and have the appearance of a third party giving us social proof. Mm-hmm. And that's actually where I kind of land. I was like, this is kind of dangerous because it offers people social proof without actually having to be intimate with a human. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody can pretend, or I can make it look like somebody agrees with me or us, and it doesn't cost me anything. If you're resonating with this conversation and want to go deeper, I want to invite you to check out my book, The Resilient Husband. It's available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online retailers. It's a powerful guide for men ready to step out of emotional gridlock and into confident leadership in their marriage. And if you've been on the receiving end of accusations like, you're a narcissist, Steve and I wrote a book just for you. Visit narcissistornot.com to get the book or to take our free behavioral assessment. It'll help you see what's really going on and where your path to growth begins. Now back to the show. So I'm wondering if we could shift gears a little bit and go back to this use of AI, Steve. I wanted to have a chance to react to this a little bit, to talk about our own experience as men reacting to the allure of AI to basically shortcut some things that maybe as coaches we find appealing, like something giving you the social proof. I'm seeing a trend in some of the men I work with of more and more people using things like ChatGPT and Claude to do some self-reflection, which sometimes seems healthy, but they're using it in ways I'm also finding a little bit of a red flag response to. And I'm wondering if we could kind of just compare notes a little bit about what we're seeing and men do, and also the allure of AI as it's kind of just barreling down the runway at humanity. I have some pretty significant concerns about this as it relates to men in relationships. But I'm going to invite you as the senior to go first. Tell me what you're seeing.
Since you and I work only with men, and being men ourselves, we get to see trends and data. We get to see what's really going on in the mind of men. And I think what's going on in the mind of men is what's been going on for eons, millions and millions of years. We solve problems. We see things as challenges, as problems, as something that needs to be troubleshot or analyzed and then figured out, and then you can get on with your day. ChatGPT is great for tactical problem solving, even being a better dater, how to have a good date night, ideas on how to be in relationship in ways that feel more spontaneous or funny. So how to do what, how to be more fun, how to have a spontaneous date. A lot of men can use AI in order to tactically solve tactical problems. The problem here is that every man we work with has been told something similar to, I do love you, I just don't feel in love with you. And they see that as an XY problem. Oh, let's go solve for being in love. Every man you and I work with wants more than anything for a woman to desire him, to love him deeply, to see him for who he is, and to adore him at the level of in-loveness. You cannot use AI to become a better man, a more lovable man, or a more loving man. That's a problem that cannot be solved rationally or tactically or logically. And so what I want to talk about is the difference between using the AI for really cool things, tactical things that deserve tactical solutions and creativity, and the spiritual level of in-loveness that most women are feeling in marriages that are ending, and having our guys, and this is for you and me too, of course, we're problem solvers and troubleshooters, understand there is a level of being that AI can't touch, a level of vulnerability and authenticity and realness at the level of the heart that AI will never touch. And if a man doesn't understand that, he's going to be spinning his wheels in the world of tactics and problem solving, wondering why she's not responding, which was what we always coach. Why isn't this working? Well, it's not working because you're not being the kind of man who gets the shit you want. You're not being that. Well, I've asked ChatGPT how to be that way. You can't ask AI a being question, only doing questions.
Right. Yeah. As you're speaking, I'm kind of just, I like to think in metaphors. My general observation is the nature of the human journey is that we build masks. We build tremendous masks of really to avoid being seen in the ways that scare us. And I like to talk about this with men that the first half of life, you're like pulling levers and turning dials in the outside world, trying to make it like pacify this place in you that doesn't feel good about yourself. And it seems like AI just gives people, like a superset, like a new way to pull levers and dials, but it's flawed in that it believes that out there is the answer, and so it's like a new way to manipulate people at a scale that's never been possible before. And I find that worrisome because I don't believe we have a doing problem either. I believe we have a being problem. And to your point, I don't think information that AI can tell you is going to like make that switch from being a be do have person or a do have be person to a be have do person. So I'm finding a lot of men like you are trying to, they're like putting their wife's text in there, her emails. They're asking doing questions of AI to be a better doer. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's the problem. I think, to your point, we have a problem with being, and I don't think there is an external solution for that, including in women or AI. So, yeah, some big concerns too, because I think I mentioned earlier that, like you mentioned, we have this desire to be seen and accepted, appreciated, approved. I have come to believe in my 51 years that what you really want, what I really want, is those things from myself. And because I don't give them to myself, I'm going to look outside to you, to woman, and I'm going to try to fiddle with those things. I'm going to try to control, manipulate, cajole, strong arm. I'm going to do everything I can to get you to tell me something about me, right? And that's the problem, right? Like, there's, one of my favorite sayings from you is you can't get enough of what you really don't need. So even if I could use AI to make me really good at getting my wife to think new things about me, it still seems highly manipulative and false. And the irony there is it's exactly that pattern of falsehood, which is what's keeping men from connection and intimacy and the love that they want.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not in the business of helping men meet women and get them into bed. That is a different industry. It's a very, very profitable, active industry, pickup artistry and dating and all that stuff. There is a very manipulative model that's very effective for getting women to like you, to say yes to you, to give you their numbers, and to sleep with you. That's very predictable. That's an equation that's been cracked. And if you're willing to do the discipline, the doing part, you will get results. You will get that. And because that industry has been so successful, guys who don't want to live like that but want to have results like that with their wife still think there's a game here to play. There's word structures. There's a sentence you can write. Maybe AI can help you sound softer or more vulnerable in your text message. Maybe you can sound a certain way to make her want you. All the while, you don't want you. The fact that you're looking for external help from artificial intelligence to help you sound better and be better means that you're not willing to do the work to sound better and be better naturally in who you are.
Right.
Watching a video recently of this rancher up in Wyoming, big bearded guy who's on a podcast. And he's kind of a self-help guru, right? Kind of like my Western vibe. And he just said to the interviewer, said, how is it that you create connection in the world? And he goes, well, it starts with one thing. He goes, I like me. I like me. I would love to buy me a beer. I'd love to sit and talk with me. I have to be the kind of person that I like to be with. I want to be that man for me. And it's really profound to say, I like me, I would buy me a beer. If you're not there yet, there is no amount of artificial manipulation that's going to make other people like you.
Yeah.
Want to be with you.
I like the idea that pretty much that intimacy starts with your intimacy with yourself. That's been my story, at least, and the men I work with. That's what we focus on, and it's reliable. It really produces the result they want because we're just basically projecting out into the outside world whatever our inner experience is. And so if your inner experience is rejection, disregard, you don't approve yourself, you'll keep running into that everywhere. And I do think really the prize, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is not more sex or more intimacy with a woman. It's more intimacy with yourself, just liking who you are. And I have found that to be like 100% reliable in changing a man's experience. Yeah. And I don't believe AI could do that. I also don't believe books could do it. I don't believe coaching can do it. I don't believe anything could do it because it's not an external problem. There's no internal problem with an external solution.
Yeah. One reason we do podcasts like this is to help guys understand that you have to stop trying so hard to be something you already are. Right. I mean, the biggest value of this conversation is a 2x4 that slaps a guy in the head and he wakes up and goes, wow, I've been trying too hard. I've been working on all the wrong things. This is actually easier than I thought it would be. If I could just settle into a place of inner wisdom to where I know I'm okay and I know I'm valuable and I know I'm kind and I know I'm generous and I know I can love. And what I'm going to choose today with this one woman who's caused me to watch this frickin' podcast, right? This one woman who's caused me to even be on my computer watching this or my phone, is that all she really wants is what any human wants. She wants to be accepted for exactly who she is and how she is. She wants to feel a deep sense of love and adoration without judgment for everything she is, the warts and all. She's never felt that in her whole life with her mom, her dad, or anybody. And she wants it with you if you know how to love her. And what we're trying to say is that AI is not a tool to learn how to love. You have to learn how to love yourself and why you're valuable inherently, and how to give that generously to your wife in a way that doesn't have a lot of narrative around it. It's not a lot of talking. It's not a lot of doing. Right? Yeah, you can have great dates and all that, but she can smell the way you think about her. That's a weird sentence. She can smell the way you think. And the only way to get what you want in this life is to think the thoughts of the kind of person who gets those things. Think the thoughts of the kind of person who gets those things.
I've come to believe that that is our natural state, and actually that something just gets in the way. In my relationship with myself and then Zelda, I found it quite easy and natural. Like, I really didn't work for this to try to see her and accept her that way. I just changed my understanding of myself. It was like, this might get kind of gross, but have you ever just felt like you're about to have explosive diarrhea and somebody's asking you a question, and as much as you might really want to pay attention and dialogue with them, you're just like, bro, I got to.
Yeah.
I hold the belief, this is the Sven philosophy, a disgusting philosophy, I guess, but I believe that when we're insecure, meaning we don't really know and like and approve of who we are, it kind of puts us in the same like emotional, spiritual urgency where we really can't see another person because we're trying to solve that equation within of like, how do I fix this problem of essentially, I don't like me and I don't feel valuable and worthy and significant as a human being. And then you're preoccupied. You can't really focus on another person or see who they truly are because you're too busy playing the game of trying to get them to tell you about yourself. And I found like when that went away, intimacy became quite natural and easy because it just became an extension of my inner relationship with me. But getting there is another matter, right? I had to dredge a lot of sediment out of the river. That's the way I look at it, to get the water flowing through there. How about you?
Well, you're reminding me of the famous bumper sticker T-shirt mantra motto, which is that we don't see other people as they are. We see other people as we are, which means we run our relationship and our regard for other people through our own filter of what we think about ourselves. And then we tend to project things on them instead of seeing and loving them as it is. It's a very complex idea in a very simple bumper sticker. We don't see people as they are. We see people as we are. For a man who really, really wants what he wants, if he really wants to feel in love and he wants that kind of connection that would last a lifetime, he has to dive into this and realize that's ancient wisdom. And all he has to do is get quiet and find out there's a place from which he can project that is nothing but love, kindness, high regard, intimacy, vulnerability, humor from himself. And if he can project that onto the woman in the kitchen making dinner and she can smell that, his life will change forever. Even dating, you go on a date with a woman and you look at her like that, your whole life will change. I know this sounds like pixie dust, but this is the only secret that needs to be solved. There is no other problem.
There isn't. It's, intimacy is all about, and I may have already said this, but into me see. So if I look into me and what I see repels me, I'm going to build all kinds of like layers of falsehood.
Yeah.
And I like to think about that like bubble wrapping yourself. Like, how intimate are you going to be with another person? Let's use physically. If you're wrapped in layers of stuff, right? I love the idea that intimacy requires nakedness. Like, you're not going to have a fun, intimate time if you're fully clothed, right? So we have to shed these layers of clothes, but the reason we don't want to do that is we're not convinced that what's under there is going to be accepted by the other person. And men already have a problem with letting a woman see their insides, and then they can't figure out why they don't have intimacy. One of the problems I run into a lot is inviting a man to be seen by other men, because they haven't made a connection that, like, look, bro, if you're not going to let another man see you, you're definitely not letting the woman in your life see you. And you don't have intimacy, the kind your soul craves, precisely because of this pattern. If you won't let somebody see you, you will not experience what you're looking for. And so we have to get to the root of that, and we have to take small steps to that. And this is like a real paradox with men, because they're so resistant to being seen even by other men that they don't get started in the process. They think they're going to solve this problem of intimacy in isolation, which is, I mean, that's just totally irrational. And getting back to AI a minute, this is probably my biggest concern, is that it allows men to perpetuate this completely ineffective approach of trying to get more intimacy, which is this inner ability to be seen, in deeper isolation. Now, not even talking to humans, but talking to a computer, a psychophonic computer that'll tell you anything you want to hear about yourself, and it'll never challenge you. It'll never be hard. It's never misunderstanding. It's never going to have a sour look on its face. It's never going to tell you it needs space or that it's in love with you.
It'll never challenge you. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is a problem already with men. So I can't imagine just yet what AI is going to do to drive men deeper into a level of isolation than ever, all while giving them the belief that they can stay in this completely shielded, bubble-wrapped
it's a problem-solving puzzle. And instead of a being puzzle, it's a problem-solving doing puzzle. And they'll keep trying it. I mean, it's just another tool. AI is a fantastic tool. And when you see things as tools, they're used to hammer nails and saw wood and dig holes, and you think you can use it for this. The resistance is the deeper work that we help men with. I was reading, one of my old coaches sent out an email talking about the coaching industry is at risk now because so many AI bots are being used for like leadership coaching and things like that. And what he said, one thing he said that the AI engines can't do is sit with the man face to face when he's sitting in shame and fear and a tear is running down his face, and sitting with him in empathy and compassion and hearing every word and connecting with him that way. AI can't do that. And that's why the coaches who are willing to do that and see that and model for their clients what it is like to be truly intimate and truly vulnerable, truly powerful in that vulnerability, those coaches will have jobs forever, because the world is tending toward dumbing it down, trying to automate that experience. And so if you're watching this conversation and you're going, wow, this sounds like a lot of work, it is not work. It is only realization and remembering that who you are deep inside is a very generous, kind, compassionate, loving, non-judgmental person. You're inherently worthy, inherently valuable, and inherently lovable, intensely lovable. The only problem is you don't think that. So we're trying to help you with that.
I love what you said there about it being about realization instead of work. I would say that a big part of that is experiencing acceptance of other humans. And, you know, AI can give you the feeling that you're being accepted, but it really can't reject you. Kind of implicit to what we do with one another and even in a relationship is the risk that comes with relating. It's that you let somebody see you and they could reject you. They could actually turn their nose up, but because of their own human experience of pain, frustration, their own inner darkness, their own journey, they're choosing to accept you. So it's like the choice to accept is a very human thing that I don't believe an AI could ever experience, because it's not lived a human experience of pain and challenge and difficulty and separation. It doesn't know the depths of the darkness that humans can go through in order to offer somebody the contrary, right? And that that's the basis of intimacy, is that somebody says yes to you despite seeing all your bullshit, right? And actually, it's even the basis for intimacy with yourself. It's looking at all your crud and saying, okay, I accept me, right? It's that realization. And AI fakes that. It doesn't, it uses words to give you the idea that that's happening, but it's false. It's like, it's not, you're not getting that experience with a human being. And this is my favorite thing about a community of men and why it's such a great like training ground for intimacy is it's way lower stakes than being with a woman. Just stand in front of a dude and say, hey, here's where I am at. And you think that men are going to like shame you and judge you. And you're expecting that people are going to turn away. You're telling yourself a story where you're the only one like this. But the power of that man who sits with you and he hears your story and he says, man, sounds a lot like my story. Sounds a lot like my darkness. Hey, man, I accept you. I see you. Nothing about you scares me, and I'm not turning away from you. Like, that is such a gift to give each other.
And guys in our community start to get comfortable with that, start to get good at that, and they start to realize that's all they've ever really wanted in life with people, not just their wife, but with people. And once they get comfortable, the new risk is showing your wife that side of you. That I've been having a lot of vulnerable conversations with men. I'm finding out that I like depth. I like authenticity. I like living on the edge of fear that I'm going to get judged. And I like talking about this shit. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel alive. This is what I want with you, sweetheart. This is what I want for us in our next 30 years together. I want us to bond over this new idea of what real intimacy is. And the risk is she goes, are you fucking crazy? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm not doing that with you. You're not safe to me. I love you, but I'm just not in love with you. And you just poured out your heart. You just said what you think. Yeah, I could tell you to say those things, by the way. And you just say them. And she goes, no, I don't even think you know what you're talking about. That was a bunch of word salad there, but I don't think you even know what that means. And so the risk is finding out that you know what you like and you like what you like and you want to ask her for participating in what you like. And she goes, yeah, no, you're not my guy for that.
Yeah. I've seen that a number of times because it's not a binary thing. It's not like you don't know how to be intimate on Monday, and by Tuesday you're vulnerable because you sat in front of a bunch of men. I find this process takes several months, but guys have that experience, but then they come back to people who do accept them. They say, "Hey, here's what I said. It didn't go so well," and a bunch of men say, "Yeah, man, it's happened to me too, and it took time." And they kind of give you the tools to just sort out what's true. Where do you need to keep looking more deeply? But then also help you realize you scared the shit out of her because you called her to a level of intimacy that she wasn't quite ready for. And that was pretty high stakes. But I find if you stay with this, if you learn who you are, and again, it all comes back to your understanding of who you are and your acceptance of who that is. And if you maintain that spot, and you're willing to let people see it, you are Tony Stark in an Iron Man suit. Nobody can harm you. And people could say yes all day long, and you say, okay, it feels like those missiles flying at Tony Stark and Iron Man, but it doesn't actually do anything. Yeah. And you just go back and you say, okay, well, this is who I like to be, darling. And I found in my own journey, as I did that, it became more trustable to my wife because I became more trustable to me.
Yeah.
And that was the key. But it did not happen overnight. It took a long time, but it was effective. And now I'm not scared of her. I love being myself, happy to be myself in front of her. And
now I know her. I know Zelda, right? And I know that she is also doing her work, and she's evolved into the type of woman who would love to be with a man who could be like you. And if I was to be a devil's advocate, one of our guys might say, I heard what you said. I know your story. I know Zelda. I know your whole thing. You're just lucky to have a woman who said yes to this new way of being together. I'm scared. I'm not sure I'm going to get a yes for that. I'm not sure I can go into the dating world and get yeses for that. I don't think there are women out there who like this kind of stuff. I think I'm supposed to be more alpha. That's why I'm going to go with the alpha stuff.
I do hear that all the time. And if people knew the before and after, I think that would dispel that idea. But what I would say to anybody is, for me, it comes down to, it's more important to me to be authentically me and even unmarried than to be inauthentically married. And that is like the place of change, because now it's up to her, right? Like, I already know what I want, and I know what I'm willing to pay to have it. And I'm willing to pay any price, including the dissolution of my marriage, to hang on to me. But that's extremely safe for her, because she now can trust, like, okay, he's going to be him. And that is the foundation of intimacy and connection, is that I will hold on to me, right? She could say no. She could say no. And if she ever does, I'll love her through it, and I'll keep loving me through it, and we'll not be partners. But I would say our partnership has gotten more devoted because there's total freedom in somebody not needing you to be a certain way, right? Like, that is the secret sauce. I want Zelda to be able to leave me at any moment. And I'll actually set up a lot of structure to make that possible. But knowing she could leave me, and knowing that I'll hang on to me, and knowing she can be fully her, is why we have such a good relationship. She's so totally free to be herself. Well, at first it sounds like that. It sounds like that when you're trying to fiddle the levers and the dials in the outside world, because you end up trying to manipulate and control one another to solve your internal life. But that's what we let go. And I did have to do it first. And there was a season where, I was standing in my own person, and that was frightening to her. And if it had not been for community and men like yourself and others who would just say, kind of keep me pointed in the right direction, it would have been hard not to, maybe impossible not to turn back into, those dysfunctional ways. But yeah, it works. And interestingly, by just hanging on to myself, I would say that is what became a catalyst for her to start seeing herself and her own need for her own acceptance. And you got to actually see some of that firsthand, how that unfolded. But it created an environment where I would say she has felt safe to explore her own inner life, knowing that I'm not going to judge or critique her because I don't need anything from her. Mm-hmm. And in that place, it's natural when people feel safe. It goes back to the urgency of explosive diarrhea. When you stop feeling like everything's about to crush on you, like to rain down on you and crush you, your natural state is to want intimacy, is to want to accept things and love things. And that's what I see happen. It's transformed my whole family.
I love it. Yeah, this stuff can sound deep and unattainable. It can sound like work. But when you get into it, you find out that you've just been resisting a part of you that feels very peaceful and natural, authentic. The part of me that was raised to be a problem solver, an engineer, a troubleshooter, analyzer, right? Intellectual, self-righteous asshole. That was me, right? Where where judgment is the leading game you play, starting with fear and judgment is like the human playground people love. What we do is help guys avoid seeing through a lens of fear and judgment, and then having a therefore I'm in trouble, therefore I can't trust, or something like that. The therefore we want is for you to go, hey, I'm good. I like me. I'd buy me a beer. I love talking to me in the car.
Yeah.
And with that sense of confidence and that sense of inherent value, you offer that to people you invite into your life. Being an old married guy is scary because you're not sure she really wants to opt into your life when you make these changes. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with other people when they get exposed to this new side of you, this confident, peaceful, content, chronically happy guy. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't believe anybody who tells you that. One thing we do know about you is that you'll have a grin, you'll have a smirk every morning you wake up, and you realize you don't have to control outside circumstances. You don't have to troubleshoot other people's feelings and thoughts. You worry about you and you give them the best of you, and then be comfortable with what you get in return. And not everybody can make the trip with you. Brene Brown likes to talk about how important it is to choose your circle of people who have deserved your vulnerability. Some people are not wired to be able to honor and respect and connect with you in your vulnerability. That's not a you problem. That's a they problem.
Yeah, that's a really hard conclusion to come to, isn't it? And a conversation I have a lot because people misunderstand my message is that, again, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is not a reconciled marriage. It's a reconciled relationship with yourself. And a lot of times that may result in reconciliation or a beautiful romantic relationship, but a lot of times it doesn't. And that's not a loss. I know it looks like one when you're standing there, but some marriages and relationships just don't endure that process. And that's okay. One of the things, my favorite roles in my work is when I get the privilege of helping men to heroically end a marriage. I'm not telling them, first of all, just to be clear to the listener, I'm not telling men to end their marriage or keep it. It's what they choose for themselves. What I offer them, and I know you do the same thing, is to be able to leave a relationship as a victor instead of a victim, and to do it in a place of love, appreciation, kindness, warmth, so that you can keep seeing this partner, ex-partner, the rest of your days without malice and animosity, even with appreciation for what role you've played in each other's lives. Like, to me, that's a beautiful thing. So if your relationship's going to end, at least let it end on that note. And that is totally choosable. Every man listening to this, if he needs to go through the end of a relationship, it can be like that. And most men don't know that because they're living in this outside in where, well, when she acts like this, I have to respond like that. They're operating in that very power struggle kind of way that they don't realize is rooted in their ego and woundedness. So I've seen a lot of men and their marriages, as I'm sure you have. Sometimes it's really something to celebrate the way it goes now. What else do you have to say to men about these things? Actually, let me ask you this, because, you and I are both from engineering kind of technical backgrounds. What about the guy who's listening to this saying, but, I can't help it. I'm super technical and I'm an engineer or pilot or surgeon. We talked to a lot of people with pretty advanced skill sets, and it can sound to them like we're saying you have to stop being this way.
Yeah.
What do you say to him?
The first thing I say, one reason that you attracted this woman, if we're talking about one man with one woman, almost every time the reason she was first attracted to him and turned on by him and wanted him sexually and intimately and affectionately, the reason was because she saw in him not just technical skills, but she saw a competency, a precision in his way of being, a masculine way of being able to protect and care and solve problems. And yes, to earn money. Yeah, that too, being productive and effective and efficient in the way you live. That's very, very grounding and very safe for them. And they get attracted to that. But they don't ever think that that part of you that they're attracted to is the one that's going to make them feel loved to the moon and back. They don't think that. They still want to be loved to the moon and back. And so what we're doing is pulling all the levers to prove that we're good, capable, confident, skilled, intelligent. We can make money. We can care. We can pay the mortgage. And then we start saying shit like, I do all the work around here. I pay all the bills. I fix everything and I get nothing in return. And she's wondering why you ever thought that that was the transaction, that if you do all those things right, you'll feel in love. So I want to tell men, don't change the fact that she fell in love with you and desired you for your competency and your groundedness and your protection. But also know that she is dying to be seen as a person of her own value, loved for who she is, without fear, without judgment, to be fully accepted and adored for who she is. And that's not a doing thing. You have to become so good. I always tell guys that I know you have all your engineering PhDs or you're a doctor or whatever the hell you are. We're going to give you a pair of glasses. And when you put these on, these are a different filter and you're going to start seeing emotion. You're going to start seeing feeling. You're going to start seeing spirit in her, like we do with horse training. A horse doesn't care how good of a horse trainer you are. The horse only cares about how it feels every moment it's with you. And this is what we help guys do, is get out of that doing mode, the troubleshooting mode, the thinking mode where you're analyzing, and being a man who is absent of fear, absent of judgment, absent of controlling outcomes. And in that, he invites her into this space, a dance, where she feels like she can do anything. She can get naked and it's perfectly safe. She could do that in the beginning because for the most part, longer term marriages, we tend to do things that cause her to believe we don't see her. In the beginning, she assumes we do. And so it's easier. Why is it always easier the first year of marriage? Well, because we haven't started creating a data set for her to say she's not safe. that she's not really seen, she's not really loved, and she's really not approved of, because we always have these molecules of judgment, which I call the fart of disappointment, dissatisfaction, and disapproval, right? Those three things. And when she can smell those farts, she will instantly not believe your love, will not trust it. But there's good farts too. There's good farts that she can smell as well. And that's what we help you do is, fart the good stuff. A sense of confidence, a groundedness, an automatic adoration and acceptance that's fearless, and it doesn't have judgment. It has nothing but love. I think love is probably the opposite of that fearful judgment that we project. And again, back to this, you better like yourself, because you cannot do any of this. You can't be that if you don't really like yourself. Maybe at some point we should show the clip of that guy from Wyoming who's just saying, I figured out I like me. I'll buy me a beer. It's that simple. That's the realization we would love for you to have today, is that I just need to stop thinking so much and realize that I do like me. And I do like being quiet, and I like to buy me a beer, and I like talking to myself, and I like to take that well-being and that sense of love I have for myself, and I like to put these glasses on, and I want to see everybody the same way. And, Sven and I are here to tell you, if you can get better at being that way, everything around you changes, because when you change the way you see outside of you, those things change. Yeah, Eckhart Tolle or somebody said that.
I have really come to see marriage as serving this exact purpose. I don't know why things break down, but I know that there's a lot of benefit in the process. I'm extremely thankful that marriages unfold this way, because had my wife not started to feel that way and create friction in the relationship, I would not have seen my need to mature this way. I too, classic overachiever, classic doer. The problem is I was using my capability, or my confidence in my capabilities, or what's that kind of confidence called again?
Spiritual confidence?
Well, behavioral confidence. I was using my behavioral confidence as a substitute for spiritual confidence, which is the belief in the value of who you are. And so I was overusing those tools of performance and achievement to try to develop my sense of worth, which is really, really brittle. And if my wife had not resisted that by just feeling the things she felt, really ultimately putting me in a state of crisis, I would not have done the work to realize that I was using those tools in a way that it was not life-giving. That's what drives you to the grave, feeling like you never lived, because you're trying to use those performance tools for your self-worth. So I've noticed this pattern in marriage, and the real unfortunate thing is, like our friend Charlie says, women are the canary in the coal mine. And if you blow up the coal mine, you miss your opportunity. And so many of us just run out of the relationship because it's getting uncomfortable, instead of seeing, whoa, this is my opportunity. This woman and her dissatisfaction and the struggle in my relationship is revealing an opportunity to me that I really need for myself, which is to come to unconditionally love yourself, is what I would say. To step away from worth that comes from, well, here's how much money I make, or here's my status in the realm of hand surgeons in the world, or whatever. Yeah. We have all these ways we do it, and I am just completely appreciative that these things happen for this reason. It's literally the best thing that ever happened to me was my marriage going sideways.
That's the gratitude. That's the hidden gift that nobody wants to admit, that it was a gift to be called out, to experience the pressure of change.
100%. Yeah. So we got to make the good farts t-shirts now that you brought that up. You said some really funny things in there that I'm sure are going to cause some eye rolls. All right. Well, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time to navigate the AI generation in the realm of men's work. I don't know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to be okay, that you'll be okay. I know we can all be okay. It'll be curious to see what it does to relationships, what men do. If there's a man listening, my number one encouragement would be to go learn to be seen. Even if it's just by one other man. If you can get in a men's community of some kind, awesome. Steve and I each have our own men's community. Start there. it's low stakes, it's low risk. And I find personally that when men do that, life starts to change. That's what was changing for me. If you invited me into a men's group, and I remember it was the most awkward thing, but no single thing has changed my life more than saying yes to that.
Yeah.
It was seemingly pretty insignificant at the time. I was like, okay. And for me, it was just like, I wanted to hang out with you a little bit more. And that was it.
I have a new client who said, I don't want to participate in your men's group yet because I feel like I'm a new pilot who just learned how to fly. And I don't want to go in there with all these other experienced pilots and tell them what I think, because I think that's stupid. And he's holding himself in low regard and thinking that he's a brand new pilot and what he has to say doesn't matter. And he also has a tendency to try to help people when he knows he's not in a place to do that. And I'm trying to tell him that nobody in there is an experienced pilot. That's the whole point, that we're flying together and we're fumbling and we're laughing and we're encouraging each other to fail and to screw up and to get comfortable being uncomfortable with that. Mm-hmm. But with a perfectionist mentality, he thinks, I can't participate in this group until I become a 10,000 hour pilot. Then I'll come in here and give my wisdom.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit arrogant of us to think that I'm not worth anything to anybody until I can tell other people what's right or wrong.
I coach a lot of men like this, and they do the exact same thing in their relationship, and they're not seeing that it's that belief that I need to be perfect and before I can be qualified for the life that I want is exactly why they don't have the life they want. Because let's just say you say, okay, I've got to have 10,000 hours, and then you meet a 20,000 hour pilot, then the goalpost keeps moving. And that is the problem with performance-based self-worth, is that you never get there because there's always somebody who's going to be performing and, more capable than you. And so helping a man like that understand that way of being is what exactly is leading him, into a place of disconnection that his soul craves. His soul craves that intimacy, to be known, to be accepted, but he is denying himself acceptance by creating such a high, impossible bar. So this is the catch-22 I was talking about. Is men that need it the most are the most resistant to signing up for a community, going on a men's retreat. But I could probably prove it with data. Every time a guy overcomes that, like we just got together in Colorado over the weekend because I was out there. And a lot of men said yes to going on a retreat we did out there this last weekend. I know that they will have significant transformation in their life simply because they took that awkward step of saying yes to let other men see them. And then they experienced it. They walked in there. One guy, I don't know if I told you this, one guy came in our retreat. None of us had ever met him. He's not a part of our community. He walked through the door like Norm at Cheers. And I thought to myself, I was like, is this like the owner of the Airbnb? No, it was this guy who just decided to come on the retreat. None of us knew him from Adam. And man, what a huge blessing it was to have this guy there. He was awesome to be around, and he took this great risk. And it was just like being in that spot of vulnerability and risk, the willingness to be seen. It opens doors for us. And so, yeah, that's my main takeaway to the man listening. If you're not letting men see you, start there. It will absolutely change your life. I don't care if it's with one of our groups. I'll put the links to both of them in the description. Just get seen with men who will see you and say, okay, I accept you. If you do that, you're probably going to have a great marriage. How about you? What's your main eye poke or takeaway for men listening?
I want to challenge you, the listener. As soon as you hit end, you click off, and then now you're going to go take a pee or get a cup of coffee. You're on your own, or you're not here with us, but you were here with us. And the moment you click end and you go off, there's normally a feeling in you that it doesn't last real long because we get hard again. But this kind of conversation shows us a softer side, a side that listens, a side that wants to respond in friendship and care as I want to with you. When I click end here, I'm going to have that feeling in me, right? You'll be off my screen and I'm going to go get another cup of coffee. And for a while, I'm going to feel soft and receptive. I'm going to want to listen to people. I'm going to want to care. I'm going to want to pay more attention to what it is I'm seeing through my glasses and what I'm doing. There is a half-life to that. That decays pretty quickly and you go back to your old way. The more you spend time in connection with men like this, the better you get at staying in that zone. And it is peaceful. Oh man, it is good. It is very comfortable. It's confident. It's hot. I found out that women love a man who is predictably in that energy. So the takeaway is notice what happens when you unplug from here. How long do you stay in that smirking sense of softness in yourself to where your curiosity leads? You're more generous in your thought. And notice how quickly it fades. With one thought that comes in there or something you watch on TV or a Facebook post, you go back into that hard, fearful, judgmental part of your body. It happens all the time. So if you want more of this, you need another dose. This is why I do this for a living. I said it all the time. Very selfish. I get to do these conversations all the time that bring me back to normal.
Yeah, same. I'm also in this because staying in that space has been the most helpful and transformative thing for me. And I recognize the more I talk to men about what's going on with them, the more I'm in that space you talk about. And I love it. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you. In so many ways. I appreciate your role in my life for giving me that non-judgmental first time. It's hard to believe that was almost 7 years ago now. And that life is totally different.
Seems like it was yesterday, doesn't it? Time goes by pretty quickly.
It does. And to the man listening, yeah, we'll hope to see you someday. And take care. Thanks for tuning in to the Masterful Man Podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to break free from stuckness, build unshakable confidence, and lead your life with unstoppable purpose, I invite you to take the next step. Join a community of men who are committed to growth, challenge, and real transformation. Learn more at www.masterful.men, because the life you want starts with the man you choose to become.